We have a ton of breaking news today, damnation. So we are not going to waste time with a long opening. Right wing activist Charlie Kirk has been pronounced dead following a shooting at a Utah university. And there are a lot of feelings that are circulating right now, and I'm going to give you mine, as well as what I think that Democrats should be doing with this moment. Buckle up. It is a day. It is a day. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. I also just finished 2 hours with Wajahat on Substack, and that will go up shortly. Okay, let's go. Hello, damnation. I am so glad that all of you are here. We have a jam-packed show today, and I just finished doing 2 hours of a live with Wajahat Ali, my democracy-ish amazing co-host on Substack. And now I'm turning here to join you with the news that broke that Charlie Kirk, at 31, after being shot at a campus appearance in Utah, is dead. Charlie Kirk is dead. And this is how basically I feel about it. This is a post that Charlie Kirk posted following one of our many school shootings. He said, "Guns save lives." Charlie Kirk, like many that have risen inside of right-wing circles and onto center stage in MAGA. Charlie Kirk is, the founder of Turning Point. He has said some of the most vile things. And I am not going to be one of those people. This is not that show where I sit back and I say, well, Charlie and I disagreed on so many different things, but, no one deserves this, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to waste energy on that because I'm going to spend as much energy as Donald Trump did on the House Speaker in Minnesota being shot and killed by one of his right-wing supporters. What I'm going to do and what I encourage us all to do in this moment is match energy. You meet people where they are. Now, I wish that we lived in a country where we didn't have gun violence. I wish that we lived in a country where after the first school shooting that we outlawed AR-15s and assault rifles and magazines. I wish that after the first school shooting that we took action as a country and we said, you know what? We don't want this here. I wish that we lived in a country that instead of our elected officials wearing a flag on their lapel, that they didn't switch it out for an AR-15 so that they could show their allegiance to the gun lobby that pays them to look away at the deaths of children, of innocent people, while they're in the midst of prayer, while they're shopping, while they're walking, while they're drawing pictures in kindergarten. I wish that we lived in a country where you didn't have people like, Jones, who's on and says that these people were crisis actors in Newtown, that parents that were burying little children, that they were crisis actors. I wish that we lived in a country that didn't elevate people like Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller. I wish we lived in a country that didn't have 77 million people that elected Donald Trump after hearing him say that he can grab a woman wherever he wants, that when you're a star, they let you do it. I wish we lived in a country that believed women when they came forward with the courage to say that they were sexually assaulted. and abused. But we don't live in that country. And we don't live in that country because more than 30% of us now follow the likes of Charlie Kirk and others that tell women that their only value and worth is the babies that they can produce. That guns are necessary even if young children are killed, because that's the cost of protecting our Second Amendment. So how do I feel right now? You reap what you fucking sow. And that goes to everyone in this country. You reap what you sow. If you sow hate, hate will be visited upon you. If you stoke violence, violence will be visited upon you. I don't know what kind of siloed thinking and space these people occupy, where they believe that somehow the hateful rhetoric that they put out, the policies that they draw up, are not going to come back and affect them at some point. But it always does. And so right now, you have folks that are on social media condemning Democrats. You have Elon Musk that is on his broke down social media platform saying that this is Democrats' fault, that how dare we not stop and fall to our knees in prayer over what has now been announced as Charlie Kirk's death. Donald Trump came out within minutes announcing Charlie Kirk's death and offering his sympathies from him and his mail order bride. Where were those sympathies for House Speaker Melissa Hortman? Where were those sympathies for Paul Pelosi? Where were the sympathies for the kids who just had their church on their school's campus shot up the week that school started? There were no sympathies. There was no prayer. There was silence, and then Donald Trump going to golf. So no, I'm not interested in being the bigger person in the room. I'm interested in telling the truth. And I'm interested in those that are brave enough to tell the truth and to connect the dots. We don't have to pretend that we don't know how we've gotten here. How we got to this place where it is just the norm that, by the way, we had to interrupt the story of the shooting and now death of Charlie Kirk to talk to you about a shooting that just happened in Denver. At the same time, this is the world that Republicans have created. And so I want you to take a listen to Governor Pritzker, who very clearly today told an uncomfortable truth. Because you know what I realize? Why people can't stand folks like myself and others is because we are unapologetic in the truth that we tell. And the truth is not always comfortable. It doesn't always make you feel fucking good. That's what fairy tales are for. And that's why Donald Trump is in the position that he's in, because he told white America a fairy tale about their supremacy, about their dominance, about their exceptionalism. And they needed something to believe in as their world was shifting around them. So Donald Trump gave them a story. I want you to listen to some hard truth instead.
Sympathy to Charlie Kirk's family and to Charlie Kirk, who obviously is, become a target for somebody. I don't know whether it's political violence because I don't know who did it. I know they seem to have somebody in custody. But I will say that political violence, unfortunately, has been ratcheting up in this country. We saw the shootings, the killings in Minnesota. We've seen other political violence occur in other states. And I would just say it's got to stop. And I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it. We've seen the January 6th rioters who clearly, have tripped a new era of political violence.
Did he say something that was false? On January 6th, we watched thousands of Trump supporters with their flags using whatever weapons they could find to beat police officers, to break into the Capitol of the United States. They built a fucking guillotine, chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Donald Trump told them to go take their country back, and that was the result. So the problem that we have in America right now is that no one wants to connect all the dots. We want to take all of these fucking shootings, all of these acts of violence as separate siloed events. They are a tapestry of what Donald Trump and MAGA have created and have gone unchecked. Because every time there is a moment of violence like this, they tell us that all we can do is pray. If all you wanted to do was pray, then these legislators, they should have gone to some type of ministry. Don't tell me that when you are a policymaker, someone that makes the laws of this country, that all you can do is pray. No, that's what priests do. That's what preachers do. That's not what people vote you in to do. And then you have folks who, again, are taking what Pritzker said. How dare Democrats in this moment? How dare they? Charlie Kirk was fighting for his life, and this is what they are saying? Really? What were they saying when Paul Pelosi was fighting for his life? After being hammered in the head. They made costumes. They made jokes. When we learned that Vance Butler, a right-wing extremist, was behind the killings in Minnesota most recently, and we learned his political affiliation, and guess what? He wasn't trans. He was another white, cis, hetero man. All of a sudden, his name disappears. Do you all think that his name would have disappeared if he were Black? If he were Latino? If he were another person of color? If he were a Democrat? So right now, these people are going to come out and try and shame Democrats from telling the truth and connecting the dots for the American people. We don't get here, folks, by accident. This was not some act of God. This is exactly what Pritzker said. The president of this country has been fomenting violence for a decade. He has given the American Fascist Party, once known as the GOP, the authority and the green light to let go of any political correctness and just speak in the way that Eric Schmidt did the other day, where he said, America is a white nation, and I'm going to be unapologetic about that. That's a sitting senator. who was at an event talking about America? You mean the America that Native Americans founded? You mean the America that when the Pilgrims, the religious extremists, left England in search of other land, who would have died without being tended to and cared for by Native Americans? You mean it was their country? The one that they stumbled upon to spread their extremism? Give me a fucking break. I wish white people had been left to their own devices to build this country up. Maybe capitalism wouldn't have existed. Because you see, that was birthed out of the slave trade. I just, I am tired of pretending that all of these things aren't connected. Waj wrote this an hour or so ago. All the MAGA warriors who all of a sudden care about political violence, yeah, you can shut the fuck up. You celebrate violent insurrectionists, you celebrate killers, you celebrate criminals, you said nothing about Vance Boltler, and you support ICE agents terrorizing innocent Americans. You're hypocrites. Everyone else, don't let these people bully you or shame you. Call them out. I could not have said it better than that. Donald Trump pardoned all of the insurrectionists, including the very violent ones. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killed 2, and he became a celebrity inside of MAGA. The McCluskeys, who stood on their front lawn brandishing weapons at peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters, were given a plum speaking spot at the RNC, also pardoned and ran for office. Daniel Perry, who killed a homeless man on the subway, strangled him to death, was celebrated by MAGA and given a position at a law firm. But now, on today, they want to get on social media talking about we must end political violence and the left's rhetoric? Are you crazy? While they literally celebrate a man who foments, celebrates, stokes, encourages, incites violence, I'm confused. But like I said, we had to interrupt this story of now Charlie Kirk's death for a school shooting in Denver. At least 3 people are in critical condition after a shooting involving an active assailant at Evergreen High School in Jefferson County. The county's 911 dispatch center posted at 12:40 p.m. about an assailant near the high school and described it as an active scene in a post on social media. 3 people from the high school are being treated at Common Spirit St. Anthony Hospital in Lakewood and are in critical condition. Jefferson County Sheriff's Office officials confirmed at least 2 students were shot and were being taken to the hospital. Folks, what kind of country is this where you stop one breaking news story of a shooting on a college campus to interrupt that, to bring another shooting happening in another state on a high school campus. And they tell us, the right wing tells us that this is how we must live. They tell us that being an American means that you have to learn active shooter drills from the age of 5. So you want us to pray and have thoughts and prayers for Charlie Kirk today? When we have taken absolutely no action that would have prevented his murder? But somehow I'm supposed to forget about everything that the right has said and done, put that aside, and say now is not the time to politicize anything? You must be mad. I, you know, it is really something. Because on top of that, before I switch gears and talk about the escalation of World War III that we're also in, on the day that Charlie Kirk is shot dead, another school shooting happens. We are what? September 10th, which means that we are just a couple of weeks into the new school year. Florida, 3-judge panel strikes down the ban on open carrying in the state, saying that the ban on people openly carrying guns is unconstitutional. So now in Florida, the state that burns books has now done away with vaccine mandates, whose schools are in the absolute shitter. Now you can also carry a gun openly. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know. Everything. I swear to you, it is wild. Wild where we are. Wild where we are. On top of which, this week, we also know that the Supreme Court gave the green light to racial profiling. And there are images circulating around today on social media of mass agents pulling a pregnant brown woman at gunpoint out of a car. Because again, this is America. This is who America is and has been. Donald Trump has just created the permission structure for white nationalism to move from the margins of our society back into center stage. And this time, no guardrails, nothing to stop them. And if you think that things couldn't get worse today, oh my. Folks, I swear to you, NATO says it scrambled fighter jets to shoot down Russian drones over Poland. The incursion was the first time alliance planes had engaged enemy targets in NATO airspace. Poland's leader called it a large-scale provocation. More than a dozen Russian drones entered Poland overnight, prompting NATO to scramble fighter jets to shoot them down in what Western officials described on Wednesday as a dangerous escalation of the war in neighboring Ukraine. It was the first time in the history of NATO that alliance fighters had engaged enemy targets in allied airspace, officials said. The drone incursion prompted Poland's government to invoke Article 4 of the NATO treaty, a rarely used mechanism triggered when a member is under threat that prompts a formal discussion within the alliance. Quote, "We are dealing with a large-scale provocation," Donald Tusk, Poland's prime minister, said. "The situation is serious, and no one doubts that we must prepare for various scenarios." Oh, by the way, in leaked memo, President Macron in France last week sent a memo to hospitals saying that they must begin to prepare for what he envisions as war times in 2026. Because guess what Europe is doing? Buckling down and preparing for mass invasion by Russia, which the United States has no desire to stop whatsoever. Putin's message to Ukraine, Europe, and Trump: I won't back down. With escalating airstrikes, the Russian leader appears determined to demonstrate that he will dictate the terms of any end to the war. On Sunday, Russia attacked Ukraine with its largest missile and drone barrage of the war. Then on Wednesday, tensions shot up with the West as numerous Russian drones flew over Poland in striking aerial incursion into a NATO country. After staying largely silent on Ukraine in the weeks after his August 15th summit with Trump, the Russian leader returned to the subject as he spent hours before the cameras during his trip this month to China and Russia's Far East. His comments there, taken together with escalating Russia airstrikes, look like a fresh attempt to demonstrate that Russia is determined to dictate the terms for any end to war. To Ukraine, Mr. Putin's message is that he is convinced that he has the upper hand militarily. To Kiev's allies in Europe, Mr. Putin's warning is that they face danger if they allow through on their own plans to eventually deploy troops to Ukraine. To Mr. Trump, Putin is signaling that he will not compromise on his core demands, even as he claims that Russia is still ready to make a deal. Do you know? It's weird, because there was somebody that warned us what would happen if Donald Trump became president again. There was somebody who specifically named an attack on Poland. And yet, no one fucking listened to her. Maybe you want to hear from her now in what she said on the debate stage.
Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
And what has happened? It is September, folks. Months, not years, months into Donald Trump's second term. And we are careening towards World War III. everything that she just uttered on that debate stage literally happened today. Did you see a post from Donald Trump on this escalation? No. He's too busy on his knees for Charlie Kirk, praying. So we move from there. And maybe, maybe Donald Trump couldn't really grasp with his small, tiny hands what is unfolding in Europe because he's too busy trying to deny his presence in the Epstein files, his presence in the now released Epstein birthday book, the fact that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, as he said, have a lot in common. And no, he wasn't talking about golfing. But as she does every single day, bobblehead Barbie, aka the White House press secretary, has been doing her best to continue to lie for Donald Trump and say, oh, there's nothing to see here, folks. And then one reporter asks her another question.
I said earlier as well.
Okay, thank you. And yesterday, the president spoke about DC crime and talked about how there was virtually none. And then he expressed frustration about things that take place in the home they call crime. He said, they'll do anything they can to find something. If a man has a little fight with the wife, they say this is crime. See, now I can't claim 100%. Exactly what crimes was the president referring to?
He wasn't referring to crimes. That's exactly the point he was making, Ouija. What the president is saying is that these crimes will be made up and reported as a crime to undermine the great work that the federal task force is doing to reduce crime in Washington, D.C. And I think the president has every reason to believe that, given the efforts of many reporters in this room who actively seek to undermine the president and what he's doing in our nation's capital. We all know that deep inside you all agree with this because you all live here, and I'm sure you are very grateful for the administration's efforts to make the city, which we all reside in, much safer for ourselves and our families. Michael.
It's amazing the ease in which she lies. Donald Trump basically, I just want to go back, basically brushed off domestic violence in the home. He said if there's a little incident that happens inside the home, they make a big deal out of it. You mean like people being beat in their home? And the reporter was asking for clarification. And she just went off on a tangent. Spin, 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 spin. Why? Because they're doing their best to move away from this. From the fact that yesterday she also said that that was not Donald Trump's signature on the sketch of a prepubescent girl's body, where Donald Trump wrote his crude conversation to Jeffrey Epstein that was included in the birthday book that he signed. On her show, Rachel Maddow points out that Trump's signature on the letter to Jeffrey Epstein is clearly his. If the White House is hinging its whole defense against how ferociously creepy and suspicious this all is, on how much these signatures don't look alike, that's a terrible defense. But folks, look, you take a listen.
I mean, just a layman's understanding of these things, but here, look. This is the birthday book for Epstein that has Trump purportedly signing it, Donald, in 2003. Here, the New York Times publishes an example of a book Trump signed to Jeffrey Epstein in 1997, Donald. Here's the Wall Street Journal publishing an example of a letter Trump signed Donald in the year 2000. Here's the Wall Street Journal publishing an example of a letter Trump signed Donald in 2006. Now, I'm no forensic handwriting expert, but if the White House is hinging its whole defense against how ferociously creepy and suspicious this all is on how much these signatures don't all look alike, how much these signatures don't look like each other, if that's their defense, that's a terrible defense.
It's a terrible defense because it looks like his signature, because it is his signature. And this is the thing that I just want to bring up again. I'm not sure, this is what Brian Krasenstein wrote. I'm not sure if I'm more disgusted by, one, the chest on this drawing looks like a prepubescent girl. Two, the words in the disgusting poem. Three, the fact that he used his signature to draw pubic hair on what likely is a female child. Folks, this man is sitting inside of the White House. This man was given back the keys to power. He is a misogynist, a rapist. He has incited violence. I don't know what we all did to get on this fucking timeline, but I wish that we weren't on it. I really do. I wish that I could say to you, well, folks, it gets better. But in all honesty, I'm not so fucking sure. Because I've said before that I believe that everything in this country will get bloodier before it gets better. And I started the show with reporting on the death of Charlie Kirk from a gunshot to his neck and the shootings at a school. And guess what's coming, folks? Just guess what's coming. What do you think is going to happen inside of a country that has more guns than people when the full brunts of Donald Trump's tariffs, Donald Trump's shit economy, which is sending us towards not a recession, but a depression, when more people lose their jobs on top of losing their health insurance, what do you think is going to happen here? On top of which, the Supreme Court, like I said, has just given the A-OK to Donald Trump's personal Gestapo to pull over any black, brown person, any person speaking a foreign language who can't produce documents that, guess what? People are walking around with their passports and their birth certificates. And do you know what those masked Gestapo ICE agents are saying? I don't give a fuck. While they throw you in the back of an unmarked van and dump you in some shithole for-profit detention center, where maybe you'll see a lawyer, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll get fed, maybe you won't. Do you know what scares the shit out of me too? Because there is just so much. It's the fact that we have absolutely no idea, and we may never know, how many people are dying or have died in ICE custody. That there are people who will never make the headlines. Their names we don't know. We know Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but we don't know the names of the other 237 men that were sent to CCOT and then now in Venezuela. We don't know the names of people that are being picked up off of the streets, thrown into vans. Their families don't know where they are. For doing nothing other than what? Helping out America and Americans by working, by taking care of restaurants, your children, the elderly, doing all of the necessary jobs that make this country work. Those people are now rotting away, being abused in for-profit detention centers so that Donald Trump can give his donors kickbacks, so that Palantir can make more money because Peter Thiel doesn't have enough. We are inside of a perfect fucking storm right now. And I would love to be able to tell you, dear friends, that it gets better. But my fear is that things will get worse before they actually change at all. And I know that there are people, and I myself included, say you get what you vote for. I didn't vote for this. You all didn't vote for this. And yet it is on our doorstep now. We can't turn away, and we also cannot vote our way out of this. We need each other, we need community, and we need a national strike to shut this country the fuck down before we don't have a country left. The young people of Nepal, they took their country back. Right now, the young people in France are having their voices known. America needs to be shut down because the only thing that trumps the color white is the color green. And we are the economic engine of this country, the workers. And if we shut it down and demand better, better will come. But if we are waiting around for some mythical midterm election, when they are stealing this election in front of us by gerrymandering states to add more seats, Donald Trump wants 100 more Republican seats, and somehow people are talking about prospects for 2028's presidential run. What planet are folks living on? If we do not collectively shut this country down across industries, across races, genders, orientations, religion, and understand that we have one enemy right now, and it is the fascists, we will not have a country left. It's time to get to work. In whatever capacity, whatever platform, whatever space that you find yourself in, do what you can where you are with what you have to get the message out, whether it's supporting independent media, whether it's marching, whether it is organizing with union members, whether it is joining organizations, whether it is learning how to protect yourself and others against ICE, how to record them, how to keep people safe, whether it is utilizing your white privilege in order to keep the Black people and the people of color around you, your neighbors, your friends, and your colleagues safe. Figure out your role because everyone has one, and get to fucking work. Because they don't ever sleep. Their plan, Project 2025, more than halfway through it, and it's only been 8 months. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. For folks that are new here, please do take a moment to hit that bell and subscribe. All of the content that I put out here is for free. I do not believe in paywalls because that is where information goes to die, as well as critical thinking. So please do hit the bell. Help me get to 40,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And this is, again, independent media. So I want to shout out Lord Lord Warrior for your contribution today, for your super sticker. Meredith, thank you so much. Jenny, NA, thank you. Janice, Kim Gray, appreciate you so very much. Every single dollar goes to helping me create the kind of content you all deserve. And I appreciate every single one of you. And if you are watching this on my Substack, do consider becoming a subscriber there. Again, no paywalls. But if you do have a few bucks and you have the ability, do consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. But again, if you can't, you will never miss a thing. I appreciate you all, dear friends. I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Join me then. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and each other.